Trevor Solvers, the holidays are coming, and that means gift giving. We have a bunch of fabulous new merch over at resolvedmysteriespodcast.com/merch. There are shirts and totes and mugs and other gifty goodies. We also now have a sponsor page, which has some great gift ideas like Unidragon puzzles and Audible subscriptions. And there are some other unique gift opportunities for fans of RM, like sending your honey some love on our Resolved Mysteries billboard or signing them up for our Patreon. So head over to resolvedmysteriespodcast.com and click on advertising and support for more information.
This podcast contains adult language and stories of true crime. If you don't like laughing, crying, or being horrified at the actions of other humans, this podcast is not for you.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 17, and this is going to be a two-parter, so this is Part 1. This is the show where we rewatch, recap, and give you the latest updates to cases featured on the show Unsolved Mysteries. I'm Eliza.
I'm Alison.
And I'm Karlin.
And welcome. Before we get started, as many of you know, for every review we receive, we donate $1 to a different organization, and this month's is the Trevor Project, suggested by patron Raina. And just a quick note, if you want to support the show and get extra content, like 2 additional episodes a month and early access to listener short stacks, along with goodies in the mail, you can become a patron. So go to patreon.com/resolvedmysteriespodcast to do that. Okay, we're going to get right to it. There are some saddies. There are some legends. This episode covers a lot of different things. Many of them sad.
And all of them unsolved. Oh, no, that's not true. Some of them are solved.
Some unsolved.
Well, mostly
some
the Yeti
solved.
is solved.
Yes, we totally figured out the Yeti.
What are you talking about? Okay, Alison, what do you have?
The first segment is a Lost Love segment, and it is John Elias looking for his daughter.
Okay, and then we've got a wanted segment about James Dick Bitch White.
And in part 2 next week, I will be covering the legend of the Yeti.
All right. And then I wrap it up with an unexplained death about the Stanton bones.
Da bone.
Dem bones.
Put your bones in it.
All right.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it. All right. First segment of Season 4, Episode 17 is a Lost Love segment. March of 1987 in Buffalo, New York, the coda to a poignant love story is finally played out. Eleanor Platt and John Elias are finally together again. They had fallen in love when they were young, but the ugly barrier on racial prejudice had kept them apart for 34 years. Stack says it was 1953. Brown versus the Board of Education had not yet been heard by the Supreme Court. A full 6 years after Jackie Robinson crossed baseball's color line, there were just 20 black players in the major leagues. That was weird that we were talking about baseball, but
I know.
I guess it was like a way for everyone to be able to relate.
Yeah.
Stack says racial integration was an alien concept in most parts of the United States. He says that Buffalo, New York was no exception. When high school student Eleanor Platt took an interest in John Elias, a black man 11 years her senior, which, regardless of race, I don't love that, but...
Oh, I did not remember the age gap.
Yeah, he was 11 years older than her.
Okay.
Yeah. Stack says the relationship was controversial and certain to bring trouble down to both of them. Eleanor Wozniak says that right away she was drawn to John Elias and they started talking. She says that they met at different places and she just was fascinated with the feelings that they were having towards each other. She says that she knew that he was the one that she was in love with. John Elias says that they talked and developed a closer relationship, and he asked her to marry him. He says she thought about it, and he asked her again. So finally, she decided after Christmas that she would leave home and move in with him in his apartment. Stack says that for Eleanor, leaving home was easier said than done. She knew her father would object violently. Nevertheless, on December 26, 1953, She ran away from her parents' home to begin her life with John Elias. And in the reenactment, they show her climbing out of her window and jumping off of the roof. And she did that in real life. That's how she escaped her home.
Wow.
Eleanor says that she lived with John from December until the 26th of January. So I guess 1 month, basically. But on the 26th of January, she decided that she was going to go back home because she surmised that she was pregnant. John says that he warned Eleanor that if she went back home, there would be problems. Eleanor's mother, Iva E. Platt, says that her husband, Eleanor's father, was an alcoholic and he drank. And when he was drinking, he was not himself. And in order to keep peace in the family and to keep her own sanity, she had to, quote, play ball and let him take over and do what he wanted to do.
Ugh.
Iva says Eleanor was put into a home because that's what they did to, quote, girls that made mistakes, and that the law took care of him, meaning John Elias, because the law accused him of rape.
Oh, jeez.
And so he was arrested for rape. Stack says that Elias was arrested midday in the factory where he worked. According to Eleanor, the charges that John held her against her will were trumped up because she was still 3 days shy of 18. So John was charged with second-degree rape and given a 9-month jail sentence. Second-degree rape is now known as statutory rape.
Mm-hmm.
John Elias says he pleaded guilty to the grand jury because he didn't want to have Eleanor have to go through the ordeal of having to be on trial and brought on the stand.
Oh, my gosh.
He says, in a way, he felt like he was protecting her.
Yeah.
On September 13th, 1954, in a home for unwed mothers, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter that she named Rosemarie. The authorities at the home had told Eleanor over and over that it might be best to give the baby up. Eleanor says that when she had Rosemarie, she really did not want to give her up, that she wanted to keep her. But in her own mind, she couldn't figure out any way to keep her, and she says it hurt so deeply. Stack says the day Eleanor had dreaded finally arrived. Rosemarie was taken from her and placed in the temporary custody of social services until the situation could be evaluated. Eleanor says she handed her daughter to the social worker. She says she was torn up inside because she knew that she would never see her again.
No.
Stack says that Eleanor immediately reestablished connection with John, who had been released from jail early for good behavior. They were determined to get their daughter back. Once again, John proposed marriage. Eleanor accepted, but insisted they tell her parents face to face.
Seriously,
Eleanor,
what are you doing?
what are you doing, girl? Come on. So Eleanor's disgusting father chases John off the porch with a shotgun. And then her parents have Eleanor arrested for failing to obey their lawful orders,
Oh my God.
even though she was over the age of 18.
Gross.
How? What is that?
I don't know. Also know what the hell Eleanor was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the victim here, but how many times do you need to go back to that house and have them arrest your
Yes.
partner before you just stop going back over there?
Yeah. There's no way that's going to end well. What are you doing?
And John, 11 years her senior, was like, please don't go over there. Please stop going over there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So John says that Eleanor disappeared and he had no idea where she went, and he could not contact the family because clearly they hated him. He says he asked around, but no one knew where Eleanor was. Stack says that Eleanor had been sentenced to a 3-year term in a juvenile detention facility. Again, she's over the age of 18, so I don't know how this is happening. Yeah.
3 years.
Yes. Yes. For being an adult and not obeying your parents.
I don't get it.
No. Me either. However, she was told that her sentence would be reduced if she put Rosemarie up for adoption. So everyone in this segment is awful. Everybody
Awful.
is a garbage monster in this segment.
That's not a trade. That's not a trade.
No, it's terrible.
It's a child.
Yeah, and apparently, I think I say this later, but the woman that orchestrated all of these arrests and negotiations and stuff was a female police officer that the family was friends with. So just like a real gem. Eleanor says she was naive and didn't know how the laws worked and was scared of her parents. She was scared of the social worker, so she signed the papers not knowing what the consequences would be in the long run. Eleanor says that afterwards she found out that if she had understood the law more, she wouldn't have had to have given Rosemarie up because she was 18 years old.
Oh my God. So it's just people lying to her.
They just tricked her. Yeah. They tricked her.
She says that when she did the signing, she felt all torn up inside, like she signed her life away and there was nothing more she could do. Stack says that Eleanor was released 6 months after she signed the adoption papers. Eleanor says that she still wanted to see John and marry him because she loved him. Stack says that John was nowhere to be found. Only later did Eleanor discover that John had been, quote, literally run out of town. John says that he was constantly harassed by the police department. He says he did not see Eleanor anymore after that because he left town where he could get a decent job, and he started settling down after that ordeal. Stack says that Eleanor never had more children because of complications resulting from Rosemary's birth. Eleanor was forced to undergo a hysterectomy at the age of 22.
Oh, wow.
In 1977, Eleanor married Stephen Wozniak, and together they raised 4 foster children, which is so nice.
That's nice.
John Elias also married. He and his wife had 2 children, a boy and a girl. In 1987, John began to search for his daughter, and along the way, he located Eleanor. With the blessing of both of their spouses, which is so amazing, John and Eleanor resolved to find Rosemary. Eleanor says that if Rosemary is watching, she wants her to know that she loves her and her father loves her, and that's why they're working together to find her. She says that she wants to explain to Rosemary that there's so much that she wants to explain to her, that she really did love her and that her father loved her. John says that he hopes that they will be successful in finding this child that they have been searching for all of these years, that this child was literally taken from them by the arms of the law.
Yeah.
He says that they don't want to interfere in her life. They just want to know her whereabouts and how she came out. Stack says that John and Eleanor's search came to an end when a viewer in Elmira, Pennsylvania, recognized their long-lost daughter as one of his coworkers, Sally Riley. So Sally Riley says that one of her coworkers called her on the phone, and she says that he was hysterical. And he asks her, "Are you watching Unsolved Mysteries?" And she says, "No." And he said, You're not going to believe this. They're looking for you. Your mother and father were on TV looking for you." Stack says 2 weeks later, Sally and her fiancé traveled to New York and introduced her children to Eleanor and John for the first time. Sally says that when she first saw her parents, she was flabbergasted or in awe, and she says that she stared at them because she's a part of them. Eleanor says that unless a person has gone through what she has gone through, there's no way to describe the feeling that a person has once they find their child that's been adopted. John says that he had carried an imaginary picture in his mind of how he thought she would look. He says that he had a form, but not a face. But when she stepped out of the vehicle, she had a face, and that was a good feeling. So nice. Stack says the reunion was arranged by Dominic Telesco of the District of the Center for Reuniting Families. Telesco says that it was very touching and an emotional reunion. Eleanor says she wants a mother-daughter relationship as much as possible and wants to make up for lost time with her grandkids. Sally says that she's glad that she has an extended family now and that everyone is accepting her. She says it feels really good. So we know what happened. I have just a little bit more information.
I have a question. On the in the reenactment or in the reunion, there's an older couple there.
Yeah, I'll tell you who that is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I found a 1991 Buffalo News article that talked a little bit more about the case with some direct quotes. So Eleanor Wozniak is quoted as saying, "To me, color of skin didn't make any difference. I lived in a mixed-race neighborhood and had black friends at Jamestown High School." Eleanor says about her parents, "I thought once they knew I was pregnant that it would all be accepted and we could get married. Instead, all hell broke loose. When John tried to come for her, her father met him on the front porch with a shotgun shouting, 'You're not coming in this house. No black bastard is coming in my house.'"
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
So after that, Eleanor was taken to the city police station. There, she says, a policewoman called by her parents that knew her parents coerced her into saying John had locked her in his apartment and threatened her into having sex with him.
Oh, my God.
Because Eleanor was 3 days from her 18th birthday, the statement was enough to indict John on charges of second-degree rape, commonly known as statutory rape. John knows now that he should have demanded a trial, but his attorney told him a guilty plea would mean a lighter sentence, tale as old as time,
Yeah.
and he didn't want to deny having sex with Eleanor, because then they could say that the baby wasn't his. John spent the next 9 months in the Monroe Correctional Facility. Eleanor visited John once in jail, and he gave her a delicate, thin gold band with a diamond-like speck on the top that she still wears on her left hand.
Aww.
Eleanor's mother, Iva Platt, says, quote, I didn't feel about colored people as I do today. I was raised in the country, and I didn't believe in interracial marriages. It broke our hearts that it happened. At that time, we thought we were doing what was best for her and the child.
Jeez.
When Elias and Iva Platt met again, the first thing Mrs. Platt did was ask Elias to, quote, forgive me for what I had done.
Oh, wow.
After she gave up the baby, Eleanor searched faces looking for her child. She would query young women who she met that were of mixed race. She grew despondent, alcoholic, and suicidal. Her sadness deepened when she learned that the problems during the delivery left her unable to bear another child. Eleanor moved around a lot and, in her own words, became the wild girl that everyone accused her of being. Quote, I really didn't care what I did because I had lost everything she had, she said. Iva Platt says, quote, the one thing that always hurt me is that as much as she loves kids, she had the one and she had to give it up. Eleanor's father kept a stony silence even on his deathbed when he wouldn't acknowledge Eleanor's attempt to reconcile. That's what hurts, Eleanor says. Quote, he went to his grave never saying he was sorry.
Ew.
And then I read a 1992 article after they found Sally Lou Briggs Riley, who was Rosemarie. So Riley's adoptive mother, Sarah Briggs, told her daughter as a child that she was adopted. And later she gave her records that listed her birth name, her biological mother's name, and birth date, which was September 13th, 1954, and the place, Buffalo, New York. So Riley was already looking for her parents too, but she met with dead ends whenever she was seeking information.
So maybe that's how the coworker knew.
Yeah. So the article goes on to say, at some point she shared her story with a friend who remembered the name while watching the television program. He recorded the show and showed it to Ms. Riley the next day. When she called the show, she was referred to Dominic Telesco, who operated the Center of Reuniting Families, the nonprofit search service that they mentioned in the segment. So the reason why that elderly couple is there is because the reunion with her parents took place in Telesco's home. So they were there.
Oh.
Yeah. With Sally Riley filling in the gaps, Elias and Wozniak now know that their infant was placed with 3 foster families until she was 2.5 years old. It was then that Sarah and Earl Briggs of Steuben County came to Jamestown eager to adopt a mixed-race child. Briggs, a car dealership manager, was black, and his wife Sarah, who at this time had moved to Jamaica, was black and Native American of the Oneida Mohawks. Sally Riley says, quote, I had never felt anything against either one of them. It makes me feel even more special that they went through hell, and now I know that they both still cared about me. Knowing that she was a mixed-race child allowed Sally to surmise why she had been given up for adoption. So she kind of knew why.
But she wasn't even given up for adoption.
I know she was forcibly removed from the arms of her loving parents. Yeah. John Elias died in June of 2011 at the age of 87, and Eleanor passed away on November 26, 2019 at the age of 83. Sadly, neither of their obituaries mention Sally Lou Briggs.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I found Sally Lou, who is now Sally Lou Briggs Beach. She remarried. And she looks very happy, and she's a grandma now.
That's nice.
Wow.
And that's it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gosh. With the way that the segment opens, it makes it seem like Eleanor and John are together.
Yeah. Yeah.
As older people.
Yeah. No, they didn't end up together. I think she stayed married, and he stayed married as well. Yeah.
God, it's just so fucking terrible.
You know,
It is. I mean, I'm glad they found her, but...
the circumstances are awful.
The trauma.
Yeah.
Well, and they wanted to raise her, and that's, like, the worst part.
And instead of allowing them to raise her, she had to grow up in the foster care system for the first 2.5 years of her life.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. That was like that other case where the father decided to put the kid up for adoption rather than let his wife raise the child because she cheated on him.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be, like, stopgaps in place for things like that.
Yes. Yeah. Ugh. This is the wanted segment of James White. March 3rd, 1991, just outside of Kissimmee, Florida, local authorities are on the scene of a deadly highway accident.
Oh, I hate him.
I don't remember. Oh, yeah, this was not great for me to watch.
I hate it. Stack says it's something that happens every day around the country. A drunk driver has lost control of his vehicle and claimed innocent victims. The victims in this scenario are 71-year-old John Constable and his 69-year-old wife, Virginia. The couple had been married 45 years.
Oh, my God.
Stack gives us a statistic. He says that 22,000 Americans are killed by drunk drivers every year. And I did look up some current stats. There has actually been a marked improvement since the mid-'80s with traffic fatalities in general dropping, but especially alcohol-related. And alcohol-related traffic fatalities have dropped by 44% since 1985.
Jeez.
That was kind of like the peak, right?
Yeah, so just the 80s were... I mean, I remember my mom was in MAD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like that's when it started. I think it started around then. Mad.
yeah, it was a real problem. So NHTSA has been tracking drunk driving accidents since 1982. And in 2019, it was the lowest record yet
Oh, wow.
since then,
Wow.
with 10,142 fatalities.
Oh, okay.
So literally it's cut in half. But during the pandemic, it's increased by 5%. So that's also great.
That's because everybody's drinking.
Yep. But anyway, it's too much no matter how much it is. Stack says it's a bitter reality that a lot of the time, the drunk driver survives the crash they've caused.
Yeah.
Sunday, March 3rd, 1991, John and Virginia Constable left Davenport, Florida to visit their daughter in Jacksonville, which was a 3-hour drive. And they, in the reenactment, are like, it's a really cute reenactment because they're like, she's like, did you remember to bring this? Did you remember to bring this? And he's like, just get it in the car. And she had just gotten off the phone with their daughter to tell her that they were leaving. By 12:35, the constables were a few miles away from home, heading north on Country Road 545, which was a road they took almost every day. Ahead of them, traveling south and approaching a sharp curve, was a pickup truck. The driver was house painter and handyman James White. Stack says no one knows what time he started drinking or how much he consumed. Then they have a very realistic and scary reenactment. The truck is fully in the wrong lane, coming straight at the constable's car. John starts honking at him, but he does not get in his lane, so John just swerves right. The guy in the truck also swerves, does not hit them. They end up on the side of the road, and then the truck swerves so hard that he basically does a full U-turn for some reason and comes back and hits them pretty much head on.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, they missed him, and then he came back and still fucking hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just really upsetting. You see the constable reenactors in their car. They, like, brace themselves for impact. It's, like, very real and scary. By 12:43, just 8 minutes after the crash, highway and rescue teams rush to the area. So they have, like, a life flight helicopter and everything. But John Constable died on impact, and Virginia had massive internal injuries. Eugene Brewer of the Highway Patrol was arriving to the scene as Virginia was being taken from the vehicle. Quote, I directed my attention to Mr. White, who was the single occupant in the pickup truck. He was placed in the ambulance, and I got in the back of the ambulance with him, at which time I could smell the odor of alcoholic beverage. So they did a blood test on White, and he had a blood alcohol level of 0.22, which was more than twice Florida's legal limit of 0.1. White was taken to the hospital 12 miles away. Virginia Constable was taken to a hospital in Orlando, and nearly every organ in her body had ruptured.
God.
She passed away about an hour later at 2:06 p.m. So then we have an interview with John and Virginia's daughter, Linda Faulkner. And it's so sad. She says by 5 o'clock, when her parents still hadn't shown up to her house, she called the highway patrol. She says a little while later, a highway patrol officer pulled up to the house. She didn't think anything of it since she had called them and thought he was probably there to get more information so that he could find her parents. So the officer tells her that unfortunately he's there to let her know that there had been a serious accident and there was a fatality. Linda's interview actually made me tear up. And she says, I just remember asking which one. I never dreamed it would have been both of them. And after that, I don't remember anything.
So terrible.
It's horrible. Officer Brewer explains that a large part of their job is responding to DUI accidents, and more often than not, the drunk driver is the one to survive. James White, the fucking drunk idiot from the truck, had a fractured jaw, a broken ankle, and 3 broken ribs. His jaw was wired shut, and he was put in intensive care. And I was just thinking, I cannot imagine being the nurses and doctors that have to take care of that person.
Yeah.
They know what he did.
Yeah.
And they have to, nurse him back to health. Stack says his relatives who lived in the area became a constant presence at the hospital. 3 days after the accident, White was in much better condition. So they do a reenactment, and James White's family is with him, and they're pushing him in a wheelchair down the hospital hallways. And they pass a nurse's station, and the nurse asks where they're going. And they say, oh, we're just taking a walk. And she lets them know visiting hours are over, and can you just have him back in 30 minutes?
He should be handcuffed to the bed.
I don't understand. Why is he not in custody?
This guy is guilty of double manslaughter, and he's able to just bop around the hospital with his family?
Yeah.
Without anyone knowing what he's doing or him checking out or anything? What is this?
It's ridiculous.
FHP Trooper John Gregory says that his family had been walking him around a bit each day, quote, and third day, apparently, they kept right on walking.
Gosh. Hate him.
Stack says it's believed they left the hospital in an unguarded rear door and that they had not been seen since. It was later discovered that White had a long history of drunk driving arrests.
Gross. Which also, why was that discovered later? Why was that not discovered the day of the accident when they were
I do not know.
I wonder if they were out-of-state arrests or violations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did live in various places, so maybe that was part of the problem. But, what the hell?
Yeah.
So the only clue they had to go on was a driver's license issued to White in North Carolina. Trooper Gregory says the local authorities went to the address on the license, but no one by the name of John White lived there, nor had he ever lived there.
Weird.
So he says they don't know if he was just using that address to get a driver's license or what.
Weird.
So I was just okay, the next time I go to the DMV and I'm mad at all the papers I have to have, this is why.
Right.
Because people used to be able to just get a license that wasn't a real,
Oh, yeah.
No proof, no mail proof or whatever you have to have now.
You could get a DUI in New York and then get a license in Jersey.
Yeah. It's crazy. Virginia says that he's a repeat offender. He's got a long arrest record in Florida alone, and he just has no remorse for human life.
Ugh.
Virginia also says, I just continually go over their accident every day. It's just something that never leaves me, trying to imagine what they had gone through. And then the segment seemed cut short right there. It wasn't even the end of her sentence. So I'm not sure what they edited out. But we do have an update. And it says, Burlington, Vermont, James White has been arrested.
Yay!
Yay! Lieutenant Chuck Williams says, following the broadcast of Unsolved Mysteries, we received some 200 phone calls about James White and his whereabouts.
Wow.
James White has been in too many bars, talking to too many people.
Yes, honey. 2 days after the Unsolved Mysteries broadcast, we got a phone call we were waiting on. James White had been spotted by someone who saw the episode in Burlington, Vermont. He was seen in a bar and arrested and taken into custody in Vermont.
There you go.
Stack says 2 weeks after he was captured, he was returned to Florida, where he is scheduled to stand trial on all charges. White, who has 2 prior convictions on drunk driving, could receive the maximum sentence of 30 years in prison. So, just some other stuff I found about the taping of Virginia, obviously, was the one that reached out to UM about her parents' story in hopes of capturing White.
Mm-hmm.
When they filmed the reenactment, she and her husband were there.
Gosh.
Interestingly, they had the real paramedics from that area do the reenactment. So Virginia was able to meet a couple of the actual paramedics that responded to the scene at her parents' crash.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Virginia asked Osceola County paramedic Steve Pennington, who found Virginia still strapped into her seatbelt in her car, "Do you remember what she said last?" Quote, "Basically just said that she couldn't breathe," Pennington told her. "To be honest with you, I thought she was going to be fine. I was shocked when I found out that she had died. If it's any consolation, I don't think she remembered anything that happened. She wasn't coherent, I'm sure of that." Sergeant Max Waterman of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office said of the UM filming, "We're supportive of these shows. We feel they represent good television in the sense they provide a good social service." And then one thing that was interesting to me was in this same article, they described, like in the intro of the article, that the crew was like spraying water because it was really rainy that day of the crash. But that's not what we see in the reenactment at all.
No, it doesn't
weird.
seem
It's fully
raining.
a sunny day in the reenactment.
Oh, huh.
I thought that was really odd.
Yeah.
Because it was called out there, and then I read somewhere else, too, that it was rainy the day of the crash. So, I don't know. So, in an article from the Orlando Sentinel in 1992, they said that during the trial, in which White pleaded no contest, White, quote, "remained mute as a daughter and friends of the couple killed in his accident ranted and wept." And, quote, "the words made some spectators wince."
Oh, my gosh.
Linda Faulkner said to White, who was 35 at the time, quote, "I don't want to be in your shoes when you meet your maker. I hope you don't forget my dad's face when you hit him, and I hope it haunts you for all the days of your life."
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Faulkner took over 20 minutes to express her loss in the courtroom, including reading a full list of the injuries her parents sustained to White.
Wow, what a queen.
So then there's an additional update. There was like a filmed update, and then there was another update popped in with just the words. And it said, "James White was sentenced to 11 years in prison plus 15 years probation. He was required to pay Linda $12,000 to cover the cost to bury her parents. He has since been released from prison."
11 years. Like, you have a million DUIs. You killed 2 people. You got 11 years. And then, like, how insulting. $12,000.
And then it gets worse.
Oh, no.
White was released in 1996, which is disgusting because that means he was only in prison 4 to 5 years.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
For taking the lives of 2 people, taking someone's parents away from them, when he had already been arrested for drunk driving multiple times and had 2 DUI convictions.
Gross.
And I'm just like, being an alcoholic is one thing. Like, that's a disease. That's a person that needs help. But when you choose to then get on the road,
Multiple times,
be an
all of
alcoholic
the time.
on your private time. You don't need to, like, risk other people's lives about it.
Those were the only times that he was caught.
Right. How many?
He did it like hundreds of times. He just happened to get caught
Yes.
those other times.
So I could not find where this information came from, but on the fandom site, it said that in 2010, White was found in violation of his probation and sent back to prison. He was then released again in 2013. So I'm not sure. I spent a long time looking for stuff about this one, but I could not find articles. The only other piece of information I really, really wanted to know about was the family members that helped him fucking escape.
Right.
Yeah, really.
I just wanted to know that, like, they also had to go to jail or something.
Right.
But I could not find anything
Right,
about
because
it.
wouldn't that be like aiding and abetting or whatever?
think
Unless he
so.
wasn't technically under
Arrest.
arrest, but he should have been. I mean, that's also on the police in that area's fault. That's their
I
fault.
think so, too. I mean, how could he not be under arrest?
Yeah.
He was in the car. They knew his blood alcohol level. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, aiding and abetting. I don't understand. So
Gross.
I hope they were punished somehow, but I could not find it. So then I think that I maybe did find James. His full name is John James White, and And the person that I found is about the right age and lived in Florida at one time. They have charges of DUI, including leaving the scene of an accident.
Lovely.
And more DUIs. And then they also had an offense in 2010 where they were speeding, which made me wonder if that was the parole violation.
Yeah, probably.
So weirdly, it does not talk about any record of this incident and this manslaughter. So might be a weird coincidence, but it seems like it's him. So yeah, so he went back to prison again for a little while, but he's out again now.
Wow. What a gem.
Yeah.
God.
It's just horrible that somebody can offend that many times in this way and kill people and still be fine.
This goes with murder versus attempted murder too. Like the man that hit my family and I, the drunk driver that hit myself and my husband and our 3-month-old daughter, could have killed us very easily. He hit us twice because he backed up trying to get away, but was so drunk and so high that he hit us again at full speed, trying to get around us, and he fled. And he did less than a year jail time, but he could have killed us, and he's back out on the road.
Yeah.
And we had to give our victim impact statement to him, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
he
it's
easily could have
unacceptable.
killed my baby. So he gets hardly any jail time just because one of us didn't die.
Yeah.
But if we had died, he would have gotten more jail time.
Yeah, it's so fucked up.
It's crazy.
And this guy did kill 2 people and was only in jail like 4 years.
Right. It's just like, who's monitoring? I mean, I know they're on parole or probation or whatever, but like, there needs to be more of a monitoring system so that they are not out on the road. And he was driving like a stolen car that had no insurance. So like, he was doing everything he could to not be tracked, or like he didn't have a car. But
horrible.
Yeah, that's terrible. Anyway, I feel like they should have like bracelets, or their ankle things should be able to monitor their blood alcohol level or something.
Some of them get breathalyzers in their car.
Oh,
but
that's
it's like,
true.
You should not. That's it. You're done. Like, you don't get to drive.
But if you don't drive your car, can't they just drive someone else's car?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's a million ways for them to just do what they want.
It's so sad.
It's really, really, really terrible.
I don't know. It's terrible.
Well, I hate him, and I hate his whole damn family.
Hate him.
And just don't do it. You don't need to do it.
Or just drink at home.
Yeah,
or
it's
stay
great to
home.
drink at home.
It's so fun to drink at
dream.
home. All right, Eliza, what are we talking about in part 2?
Oh boy. You might have heard of the Yeti.
In your spaghetti?
I was going to say the Yeti brand of coffee things. What are they called? Tumblers? Yes, there you go.
Oh.
But I'm talking about the Yeti, the abominable snowman.
Wow, great
Isn't
lead-in.
that a good segue?
Wow, that was fantastic.
I meant for NPR to skip me on there right now.
And then I'm going to wrap it up with the unexplained death of the Stanton Bones.
Damn bones.
So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, little boneheads.
We love you so. Put your bones in it. Goodbye. In March of 1987, nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Okay.
Wow.
I was like, there's no way this takes place in 87. Okay, but it does.